CNN News 18, I'm Shivani Gupta, and our top focus continues to be on the Karnataka High Court hearing that is set to resume in just about half an hour's time on the entire hijab row that has taken not just the state but has also initiated a big debate across the country. The court will resume its hearing at 2:30 p.m. Keeping in view the law and order situation, Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai has shut down schools and colleges across the state. Today, from vandalism to sloganeering, dramatic protests and face-offs were witnessed across different regions of the state at college and school campuses. Now, additional forces, including 2 battalions of reserve forces, have been deployed in Shivamogga, where violent protests broke out. Yesterday, some more updates first up.
What is likely to be the stance of the government in front of the High Court, especially with violence happening yesterday across Karnataka?
We have circulated the circular in this regard, and we have written reply has also been given. We have clearly mentioned the government stand that according to the Karnataka Educational Act and the rules, SDMC has every right to prescribe its uniform. The duty of the department is to create oneness, brotherhood and nationalistic feeling among the students. Definitely after the investigation, things will be taken into consideration.
Ban is also under consideration, would you say?
Today we doesn't have anything. The Home Department is going to look into it. The Chief Minister is going to look at it. We have requested to investigate whether Campus Front of India, which is a student organization of PF, is involved in this.
आप मुझे बताएं कि आप कहाँ खड़े हैं पूरा जो कंट्रोवर्सी है हिजाब को लेकर और सैफरॉन कलर को भी लेकर और वहाँ जो तमाम बातें कर्नाटका में हो रही हैं, आप कहाँ खड़े हैं?
मैं भारत के साथ खड़ा हूँ। पहली बात तो ये है। दूसरी बात ये है कि मैं समझता हूँ कि इस देश की जो विशेषता है वो अनेकता में एकता। आज का जो भारत है, ये आज का भारत बदलता भारत है, नवीन भारत है, उत्तम भारत है। ये कहीं ना कहीं मोदी जी जो इस वक्त विकास को लेकर तमाम पूरी दुनिया के अंदर भारत जो तरक्की कर रहा है, कहीं ना कहीं ये लोग उसमें रुकावट बन रहे हैं। इस बात की फिक्र ना करें कि कौन क्या पहने, कौन क्या खाए। इस बात की फिक्र करें कि हमारा देश कैसे तरक्की की ओर जाए, देश हमारा कैसे आगे बढ़े, हमें इसकी फिक्र होनी चाहिए।
इन्फॉर्म पेन क्या ना, इसमें क्यों इतना बड़ा इशू बना रहे, मुझे तो समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है। इसमें पॉलिटिकली कुछ लोग हैं और कुछ लोग फैनेटिक लोग हैं। ये इससे कुछ काम नहीं होता है। दैट ड्रेस कोड हैज टू बी फॉलोड, उसको फॉलो करना सबका करते हैं। और उधर कानून भी है और वो उसमें अंडरटेकिंग भी देते हैं कि जब भी हम कॉलेज में आएंगे, स्कूल में आएंगे, हम ये ड्रेस कोड पालन करेंगे। अभी तो ड्रेस कोड पालन करना है। हम जो कानून है, लॉ ऑफ द लैंड जो है, उसको मैं पालन नहीं करूंगा, ये बोलना ठीक नहीं है।
मैंने हिजाब पे बहस छेड़ी। देखिए, एक महिला का अधिकार है, वो बिकिनी पहनना चाहे, वो हिजाब पहनना चाहे, वो घूंघट लगाना चाहे, वो साड़ी पहनना चाहे, वो जीन्स पहनना चाहे। इसमें कोई राजनीति की बात नहीं है, ना होनी चाहिए। किसी का अधिकार नहीं है कि वो एक महिला को कहे कि तुम ये पहनो।
Well, the Congress party has also made another claim that 1 lakh saffron shawls have been dispatched from Pinya industrial area on Feb 6. They say 1 lakh saffron shawls and saffron headgear have been bought, and this should also be investigated exactly who has done this. This is coming, of course, in the face of the fact that several students, both men and women, showed up at various campuses in Karnataka, especially in Udupi and the nearby areas where this row has spread, with saffron shawls and some men even with saffron headgear. Let me also go across to my colleague Harish, who is joining us with more on this. So Harish, what's the charge that the Congress is making? If somebody did buy saffron shawls and headgear, what is the problem?
Well, the Congress seems to be making a point that this was an organized violence that took place, and it was planned, pre-planned in fact, and on Feb 6, nearly 1 lakh saffron shawl and headgear was bought from few manufacturers in Peenya industrial area in Bengaluru, and it's been sent to different parts of Karnataka. They're also saying that there are a few videos showing that a few people collecting the saffron headgear after protest in somewhere in North Karnataka. This video hasn't been independently verified yet. At the same time, there are a few instances where Hindu groups have been seen distributing saffron shawls outside colleges, whether it's in Baindur or a few other places. That is something that we've already reported. So the Congress is saying that this was a pre-planned violence that took place and the government should investigate. And they are saying it's very clear that there are Hindu groups which could have possibly bought these saffron shawls from manufacturers in Peenya. In fact, the Congress itself is saying that in the next few days we will release further evidence to show who are the people who made these purchases.
So they're obviously making a correlation of buying the saffron shawls and headgear into some of the violence that has broken out, but there is no direct correlation there. And it is not, of course, left to anybody's imagination that clearly it is an organized counter-protest. The saffron shawl protest is an organized counter-protest, but is that something that the Congress is opposing? We'll have to wait and see. Harish, I do thank you for joining us. Let me also go across to our guest joining us. Aashutoshsrivastava is a Supreme Court lawyer. We'll also be joined by a member of the Campus Front of India that has also come under a lot of scanner. But Ashutosh, I want to come to you first up. The central, premise of this, petition is that one, there is a right to express and profess your religion even through what you wear, your religious symbols, etc., versus the right of the institution to be able to frame its own guidelines. And there are judgments on both sides that can be quoted by both sides. I want to understand from you, when it comes to freedom of religion, as is being argued by the petitioners, what are the reasonable restrictions that can be put on it?
Okay, see, freedom of religion, obviously Article 25 to 28 of our Constitution, it gives those rights, to profess and to propagate any religion we like. But at the same time, what I, understand, though the matter is sub judice, but, as my opinion, that any educational institute is not a place, to profess any religion. It is so, a pure holy place where, every individual should be seen equally. There should be uniform and uniformity among the students. Its only religion should be a student and, Indian who go just to get education. If somebody is going to an educational institute carrying some religion, whatever religion it is, and to get education in such a way, I don't find that this will be justified. Obviously, there are other laws also. For instance, this Karnataka Education Act is also a law which gives powers to the educational institutes to decide even the dress code. And the section 133 subsection 2 of the same act gives these powers to the educational institute so that they can make uniform way of wearing of the students, so that there is no kind of discrimination among the students, whether they are rich, poor. If the rich people are coming, they can wear.
One, that an educational institute or institutes or specific organizations can be separate from the right to wear your religious symbols, and secondly, especially in case of Karnataka, and in this case, there are provisions for each institute or universities or campuses to draw their own laws. Of course, that's exactly what the government has hinted. What arguments they make in court today specifically, we have to wait and see. The Attorney General representing the state is likely to make his arguments today. But let me also go across to some more breaking news coming in. Campus Front of India, which has been accused by the government of trying to influence the protesters and providing them support, says that they aren't behind the violence and are only supporting the pro-hijab protesters. The PFI-linked outfit also blames Hindu groups, BJP leaders and ABVP of causing the unrest. Let me go across to my colleague Harish once more on this. So Harish, they are obviously denying any role in the violence, and that the government will have to prove through proof. But what is now very much in public domain is the fact that they did meet these 6 protesting students before the hijab row broke out. That is something that the CFI and the girls both have accepted. So in that sense, what role they played when this row broke out is still something that needs to be known.
Absolutely, and right now the CFI is saying that our role is only restricted to supporting the students and their fundamental right. In fact, they go a step further and say we are not even suggesting to either students or people to wear hijab. We are here just supporting someone who is fighting for their fundamental right. In fact, they are saying we haven't even tutored or trained these students on how to speak. We haven't done that. We are just supporting them because there were a few questions. Remember, earlier in the day, Sunil Kumar, Kannada Culture Minister, spoke and he raised a question saying when some of these students are not able to pay their government college fee, how are they affording lawyers or their long legal battle in Karnataka High Court? Probably that's also something CFI is referring, saying that we're just supporting them. Apart from that, we are not part of any other larger plan because earlier in the day you had B.C. Nagesh, the Education Minister, telling CNN News 18 that they have asked the police to probe if CFI was one part of stage managing the students in the Udupi Government PU College, second if they had any role in the violence that took place yesterday.
So two different things and two separate issues that the CFI role is being looked at. Harish, we'll keep coming back to you for more, but I'm also joined by Fatima Usman, who's a state committee member of Campus Front of India. Fatima, one thing that is coming to light is that there was an ABVP protest or ABVP meeting that these 6 protesting girls had attended. After that, the CFI, which you belong to, quote unquote counseled these girls. And then a few weeks later, this hijab row erupts. Now some reports also quote these girls as accepting that they only started wearing the hijab and insisting on it in December 2021. So certainly your role is coming under question here. Fatima?
Actually, now we have to discuss about not those who are wearing the hijab or those who are not wearing the hijab, or if you are going to obey the law or like that. But the now discussion it should be the violence that happening in the present Karnataka state. It has to be addressed in the media. You know, the conspiracy done by the ABVP goons in the campuses in Karnataka state. It's clear that in a few days back, Yashpal Suvarna, he is the management committee member of the one particular college, and he is also a member of BJP. And he said in the debate that if someone is going to obey the Hindu Rashtra agenda, then we are going to give the execution. We can clearly say that the students who are provoked by these so-called BJP leaders are being provoking the students to enter the
Fatima, you didn't answer my question. I'm asking you a specific chain of sequence of events that has taken place. The girls have accepted to media that they started wearing the hijab only in December 2021. They were not wearing it before that. And the CFI counseled these very girls before that. Please explain the CFI's role in this.
See, if the girls are saying they are wearing from December, but I have to say the seniors from that college, they were wearing the hijab since the college days. But those students, now they are graduated, and the students wanted to wear in December. It's their choice, right? If they want to wear now, they can wear it now. If they want those to wear it now, they don't want. We are not interfering in their individual choice and individual right. It is their right. They are just asking for their right. What is there to interfere with their faith and their right?
Well, whether it is the right or not, Fatima, whether this is the right or not is frankly not established just yet. It will be now decided by court, and there are various judgments that have barred students from deviating from the dress code. Those are the arguments that will be made possibly in court again today. But I just want to break down. This is the fundamental question, whether this is a fundamental right to wear a hijab inside a classroom of a government-run institution. Now these are the arguments that have been made. The petitioner has said that this is an essential part of Islam. So if this is an essential part of a religion, the state shouldn't come into it or restrict it. That's the central point. The government's defense so far has been, although they'll make larger arguments today, is that the College Development Committee has the autonomy over what uniform is followed, and each different institution can do so. Secondly, wearing the hijab is protected under Article 19. The state government has said that the students can approach the CDC for relaxation. It's not so much the matter of the government alone. State has no jurisdiction to issue such an order, is what the Petitioners' Council had argued yesterday. State government meanwhile had also said and requested the court, which it did eventually, that all demonstrations, protests, etc. must come to a halt till the High Court order comes, and that was also because of the situation that was prevailing as far as this is concerned. Let me also go across to my colleague Anand Narasimhan, who is joining us with more voices on the entire hijab row.
Yes, there are multiple.
Welcome back. There are some more updates coming in as far as the entire hijab row is concerned. Now, protests over this are moving beyond Karnataka. Protests have been witnessed both in Kolkata and Hyderabad. In both the cities, protests were witnessed in support of hijab. Now remember, the High Court yesterday was very clear in saying do not do any demonstrations, protesting in the meantime. Now that of course could be well for Karnataka, but clearly all across the country people need to be very careful. But let me go across to Shagata Mukhopadhyay, my colleague, also joining us from Kolkata. So what exactly happened in Kolkata, Shagata?
Well, you see, section of students from the Arya University in central Kolkata, which is on the CIC road near Park Circus, have taken out a protest rally against this purported ban on hijab elsewhere in the country, particularly in Karnataka. The students over here maintain that this is a protest against all forms of dress code on students. They are particularly mentioning that they have no issues on on whether a girl student should be wearing a hijab or not. That right should be given to the student herself. It is she who should decide whether or not to impose to don a hijab, or whether to wear a different kind of a dress.
Okay.
So obviously any kind of embargo is what these students say is a targeted attack on one particular community in the wake of the political developments that are taking place across the country. And one student particularly mentioned about the upcoming elections in various states. So obviously this is a rally that is being taken out by a group of say around 200 odd students who are sporting a banner which says hijab is our fundamental right.
Okay. Well, that of course is a matter that the High Court has also seized off now. My colleague Swastika is also joining us from Hyderabad. In fact, those are the pictures from Hyderabad where this protest has also taken place. They're happening right outside the Charminar as well. You see students once again, and especially girl students, mounting these protests. Now, the fundamental point that they're making is that hijab is a matter of choice. Now, there are many Muslim women themselves who dispute this. If this is a matter of choice or of ingrained, morality on women, and there are similar precedents or parallels across religion, and whether school is a place where something like this needs to be endorsed. In this case, there are certain precedents as well. For example, in Kerala, the Muslim Education Society has already barred any face covering for Muslim women. In Kerala, the government has barred the hijab, which doesn't cover the face but only the head and the neck, and full-sleeved shirts for any police cadet trainee. Swastika is also joining us for more on what happened in Hyderabad. Swastika, we're looking at the pictures. Tell us more of what they're saying.
Well, the protest has spread clearly from Karnataka and has snowballed into a nationwide protest. Now, in Hyderabad, protests have been happening at different colleges, including the visuals that are playing out on your screen are from the Umami College. Then the Nizami College also, where the protests have been happening. Now, these students have unequivocally supported the girls in Karnataka who are fighting against the government order restricting their entry into college and educational institutions wearing hijab. Now, these students on the ground, though in Hyderabad the protests are much peaceful, but they have in fact said that they are going to take it up on nationally and make sure that the voices of the Muslim girls are heard. They are calling it a battle between fundamental rights and government oppression. That is the allegation which is coming forth from the student community in Hyderabad who are stating the protest right now.
Well, just to put this into perspective, there is no ban or the hijab, niqab or the burqa. It is just that in a school premise, one school has said that this doesn't adhere to our dress code. Let me go back across to the guests also who continue to be with us. Aashutoshsrivastava is a Supreme Court lawyer. Ashutosh, earlier you were outlining that religious freedom also has certain restrictions, especially with regards to an institution. Fatima Usman, who's from the CFI, is also with us. I want you to elaborate on another point. Now the argument also is that the hijab is an essential part of Islam. Now if some practice is ordained as an essential practice, what follows then?
See, there are other laws also. Obviously, there is an Act of 1937, which is the Muslim Personal Law Application Act. Now, now this is a question of law, whether hijab is a part of that personal law. Obviously, our constitution recognizes the personal laws to some extent. However, when educational institutes come into picture, definitely they also have to follow certain rules and regulations which have been made by the constitution and which have also been, prepared by the state assembly. And as per the law, what they have made in different states, now Karnataka is also one of them by making a law of Karnataka Education Act.
We'll come to that in just a bit. Just a reminder for our viewers that the day 2 of the hearing in the hijab row has now started in Karnataka High Court. Today it is expected, after the petitioners made arguments yesterday, the state government will put forth its arguments today, and that will be interesting to see. Yesterday, as I was mentioning earlier, the basic premise was 3 to 4-fold, which is that one, hijab is an essential part of Islam, that it follows under religious rights, and the state has no jurisdiction to restrict this, even if it is a school campus. Those were the arguments that were made. But let me also go across to my colleague Harish, who is maintaining a close watch on these hearings as well. So the hearing has resumed today. Harish, what is the sense that you got from the government? You've been speaking to various ministers and others on what their main premise is going to be.
Well, somewhere after that violence that rocked the street yesterday, the line of argument by the Karnataka government will change drastically. Yesterday, the first half, we saw the government talking, or rather the entire proceedings and hearing, the arguments were about whether hijab was an essential part of Islamic practice. But after that violence, we've seen the government somewhere trying to now convince the court that it's no more about fundamental rights versus implementing a government order, but it's now fundamental rights versus ensuring law and order in the state. And that's the larger good that the court needs to ensure that it takes note of and allow the government to implement this order. Advocate General has just started submitting his argument, and probably in the next hour or so we will see Advocate General making this very clear to the court on why the government wants to have a uniform or a dress code and allow CDC, the College Development Committees, to decide on it, and then convince the court that looking at the matter and looking at what has happened in the state, it's all the more important to allow the government to implement this circular.
Right. Yesterday, the argument that was also made, Harish, was that, that hijab is an essential part of Islam. That, of course, is subject to what the court says, and it will look at precedents set on this. Religious freedoms, etc. But one argument that the petitioners' lawyers also made is that, the exams are upon us in just 2 months' time. So why not give relief in view of the exams that are approaching? Could you elaborate on that?
In fact, it was the first argument that was presented at the outset. It was almost like a compromise formula that the petitioners put in front of the court, stating that we are ready to speak to the government post the exams, and the government can formulate its new policy around dress code. And if we do not like that dress code policy, we will approach, or we will enroll into different institutions that would allow us to wear hijab.
Okay.
But
just
for time being,
you for a brief minute there, Harish. We are getting some updates as far as today's hearing is concerned. There is a discussion currently ongoing on whether there should be a larger bench that should look at this. Justice Krishnan Dixit has said, I feel this matter requires consideration of larger bench. The wisdom emanating from neighbouring SC judgments needs to be treated. Now this is exactly what we were referring to also, Harish, is that there are actually many judgments going to up till the Supreme Court that have dealt with issues related to what is being dealt with in Karnataka today.
Absolutely, and that's why Justice Krishna Dixit just a while ago mentioning that he believes now that probably it is fit to transfer these petitions to a two-judge bench to consider all these aspects that have come in front of the court and taking into consideration various judgments of other high courts and Supreme Court as well, and which means that you will see this now getting dragged on. But significantly at the end of the hearing yesterday, Justice Krishna Dixit also mentioned that he would like to finish the argument soon and he doesn't want this to go till the end of this academic year.
Yeah.
So we will have to see if it will be directly transferred to a two-judge bench, or will there be an interim order at least that will be in place for the next 2 months till the academic year gets over. So all these are aspects that the court will now decide upon.
Alright, so that hearing is currently ongoing. We have to wait and see. The judge has kind of thrown the ball, Harish, in the court of the two sides. He's gone on to say that, if everybody agrees, then we can do so. If there is, if you feel and all agree, I can do this. This is with reference to a larger bench. He has also said that I have went through the citations submitted yesterday. I believe one of the advocates for the petitioners has also said, Harish, that as far as the question of the larger bench is concerned, it is the court's decision. But they have reminded that there are only 2 months left for the present academic year. So they are kind of pressing on the time issue.
Absolutely, because if this has to be now referred to a larger bench, then once again the case goes back to the registrar, and then the Chief Justice has to decide whether it will be Justice Krishna Dixit and other judge, or will it be 2 new judges who will hear that petition, which means it will take a few days' time. And time is of essence here because for 2 reasons. One, we have already seen violence. Second, the academic schedule will go haywire because government already has declared second QC exams starting from April 16th. By around Feb 16th is when the classes are supposed to get over, and practical exams, lab exams are supposed to start. So all that also has to be taken into consideration because the students have lost a lot of time because of the COVID-related lockdowns and classes going offline.
Alright, so interesting what is happening. We'll continue to keep coming back to you, Harish, for more updates from the court. I also want to go across to our guests who continue to be with us. And Ashutosh, I want you to weigh in on this one more time. The judge is saying that this is possibly a matter for a larger bench. Why do you think so? Is it because there are constitutional issues involved here?
Absolutely, because it's a pure question of law. Whether wearing hijab is a part of the personal law, whether such rules should be made absolute in the educational institute like schools and colleges, which are governed by the other set of laws and acts which have been made by the state assembly. So I think this might be referred to the larger bench, of course, and I think it may further, if it requires, may be referred to the Supreme Court also, so that this particular issue is, finally decided, so that it becomes a law across the country, whatever the decision comes.
So can I ask you a question as a layperson, and because this matter has been raging for at least 2 weeks now, and of course the petitioners have also argued about the lack of their ability to join the classes in the meantime. There are precedents to this regard where the hijab has been deemed as non-essential. So what's the difficulty in looking at those precedents quickly and forming an opinion here?
There could be a chance that the court may come up with some ad interim relief for the time being till the exams are over. So by that time some interim order can be passed. That depends further on the courts. And if suppose same kind of cases are filed in other states as well, so there could be some transfer petition filed before Supreme Court so that all these matters pertaining to the same issues and being filed in different states, in different high courts can be heard together before Supreme Court. That possibility.
All right. Sorry to cut you short here. We've got some more updates coming in. I believe on the behalf of the state, the AG has said that a larger bench is not required. Let me go to my colleague Anusha, who's also joining us with more on this. Anusha, what are the updates that you're getting?
Well, there's a debate, as you rightly said, which is happening whether there is a larger, bench which is required in this matter or not. Of course, Mr. Sanjay Hegde has argued on behalf of the petitioners that if the court feels that there is a larger bench which is needed, we are ready for that. The state government, of course, says that there is no need for a constitutional debate on this entire issue because the matter in the view of the government has already been set by various precedents that have come in from different high courts across the country. As one of the lawyers on the panel just pointed out that there are already petitions which are pending. The Kerala High Court, of course, had given judgment, but on the legal point of whether hijab is intrinsic or basic to the tenet, faith of Islam, that constitutional issue has not been decided. Usually speaking, whenever constitutional issues of this nature are decided, it is a special bench which is formulated by the High Court, or the matter could also be given reference to the Supreme Court if there is a need which arises. If the constitutional issue at all has to be settled, in my understanding and experience, it cannot happen overnight. It cannot happen in a matter of 24 to 48 hours. It usually requires longer deliberation. But that being said, nothing stops the court from passing any kind of interim orders that they think are important for the larger public safety, security, peace and stability of the state.
Yes, I'll just quote the Advocate General, what he has said. Larger bench reference is the Lordship's hand. Now, as far as we are concerned, limited research we have made. One question that would arise is whether present assertion of right wearing of hijab is essential religious practice. We've got another lawyer for one of the petitioners saying the questions raised in the petition are squarely in Lordship's roster. Therefore, Lordships may, after hearing parties, render judgment. Reference to larger bench not necessary. So it seems, Anusha, both sides are keen to get a quick decision on this.
Well, absolutely, Shivani. Especially the petitioners, because their argument is that we're not able to go to the classrooms. We want to keep our hijab and we want to go to the classrooms. The court should intervene and ask the state government to do that for us. That's the remedy that they are seeking from the High Court. Will the High Court give a remedy or any kind of interim relief? It's a wait and watch. Nobody can guess the order of the court. But I quickly want to take our viewers to a very important judgment that was rendered by the Supreme Court and also eventually before that, the division bench of the High Court as well, which was broadly stated during these arguments as well, Shivani. It involved the pre-dental examination, the test entrance exam that happened, and certain Muslim girls wanted to wear a hijab and full sleeve clothes. The guidelines that were issued by the CBSE clearly said that you cannot wear full sleeve clothes because there is a possibility you may cheat, and the face coverings were not allowed. When this matter went to the Supreme Court and the High Court, there was a debate that happened. And the Supreme Court said that, look, the guidelines of the CBSE are all right. They are very reasonable. We cannot ask them to change it. Though if the students want to wear their hijab and the full sleeve clothes, they need to go through frisking 30 minutes before. What I anticipate, Shivani, there might be a balance that the court may want to strike.
Yeah, at least for the meantime.
Yeah.
My colleague Swastika is also joining us from Udupi, the center of the row from where it all began. Swastika, the court hearing is currently on. Larger question of a bench is being deliberated upon, but give us a sense of what you see around you.
Well, Udupi was where the entire protest started in the first place, but today, because of the High Court order which is still awaited, there's police deployment almost in every intercity of the city. But we went outside the college where the protest started. This is the government PU college where the situation was pretty calm. But earlier today, in fact, we spoke to the CFI whose role is being probed. Karnataka government itself said that it's the CFI which is instigating the protests here in Udupi as well as in the rest part of the state. Now the CFI has categorically said on record that they have no links with SDPI, PFI whatsoever, even though they may be ideologically similar, but in case of this protest, they're saying they're fighting for the fundamental right. Now, CFI activists here tell me that in case the High Court order does not go in their favor, they are going to continue with the protest. When I countered them by asking whether this would mean that students would be prohibited from from going to their educational institutions. Since exams are also pending, they said that we will do whatever is necessary. We are not against the students not going to educational institutions, but we are going to fight it out because hijab is mandatory. So that is the division here in Udupi right now.
But
and as far as
the
the students
court
are
has also
concerned,
said that in the meantime, even as the court is seized of the matter and hearing the matter, there should be no protests or disruptions, at least of the kind that we saw for the last 2 days. What do the student bodies have to say on that? Because law and order is also an issue.
Well, definitely, and that is the reason why, if you talk about Udupi as such, since the time we arrived at this place, we've been seeing police personnel deployed almost every crucial intersection of the city, especially in areas where we saw violence take place in the last 2 weeks. But the student body organizations, particularly the CFI, which has been claiming to be the fighter of the person, the body which is leading these fights, are saying that they're not going to stop until there is a resolution to the matter, because hijab is what they want. They're saying that any student needs to be allowed to wear the hijab and go into an educational institution. Nobody can offend that. And to make sure, even if the high court order does not come in their favor, we're not going to keep guessing on that. The CFI is very clear that they're going to lead the fight and even approach the apex court over the issue.
Okay, let me just quickly go back across to my colleague Anusha, who's also tracking more of the Supreme Court hearings, and more of the parties involved, Anusha, are making an argument that, time is also of the essence.
Yeah.
So we must go on with the hearing, even if the question of the larger bench rests with the court, of course.
Well, Shivani, you were importantly making an issue about and talking about the issue of law and order as well, which in my understanding, and the High Court agrees, is a very, very important issue to look at. And yesterday, that's why we had that order coming in from the court, where the court expressed hope that all the parties will abide by peace or not. Two legal points I want to bring out here for the understanding of our viewers. One, of course, is the point that we've been reiterating, whether hijab or wearing of hijab is essential to the faith of Islam. That question cannot be answered immediately by any constitutional court in the country. There will be a debate that will ensue. That will happen. The second question that Mr. Sanjay Hegde, the senior advocate, appearing on behalf of the petitioners, has raised is also of the administrative power. The school has the power to prescribe uniform. The school has the power to decide what will you wear. The petitioners are arguing that administrative power has not been exercised properly. This argument also goes to the same point, Shivani, as you were talking, that they want a speedy resolution. Both the parties want that. Let's see if there is an interim order that comes from the bench. That is what I am watching out for.
Yeah. I think what one of the petitioner's lawyer has also quoted, and that's basically summing up the entire argument. Today we need to find a way that no girl child is deprived of education, so do not exclude them. I think this is also going into making an argument. Ashutosh, you're also a Supreme Court lawyer, in basically pressing upon the court that whatever you do in the meantime, the classes, attendance of these girls should not suffer. What do you think could be the middle path? Because, the government is again and again reminding the court that let us make our argument. There are a lot of emotions involved, and there are a lot of issues involved in this as well.
Yes, we have to see, what kind of interim relief has been prayed for in the petition by all these petitioners, what they are looking at till this entire matter is decided. Even I am of the view that it may require some more time, because it's a constitutional issue and it cannot be decided overnight or within 24 hours or 48 hours. And even if it is decided, obviously the matter will further go for challenge maybe towards the Supreme Court for further orders in that matter, even if it is decided. So it is not that easy to get decided. However, as interim relief, the court will have to see that what can be decided so that the peace and order is also not disturbed.
I just want to come in very quickly and mention one more time, various lawyers on various sides are arguing the same thing right now, Ashutosh, that we want a speedy redressal and adjudication of this matter. But one advocate has also pointed out that the Madras and Kerala High Court judgments were decided by single judge benches. How do you look upon that? Because that seems to insist that even a single judge bench can give an order or decide on a matter of this nature.
Yes, that is the reason. No, now still the matter is pending before the court. Had it been decided by the constitutional bench earlier, this matter would have been sorted out forever. Now, even in this case, if it is properly decided, by the constitutional bench, then only the Supreme Court will be the last court to further give comments on any such kind of order being passed. Or maybe it can be referred to the Supreme Court also if there are same kind of cases pending in different states. So I think this
on that,
matter
let
is
me go across
decided
to
properly.
Anusha. Anusha, what other cases of similar nature are pending and where all?
Alright, so I want to first clarify two things here. First of all, one of the very important questions that you raised, Shivani, was that if there are already judgments which are there of the single judge bench, why should we have a fresh debate, or do they really settle the question of law or not? Constitutionally speaking, a constitution bench at the High Court, minimum of 2 judges, can decide questions of law. Single judge bench can only decide a particular case on the particular circumstances and facts. If a legal debate has to settle, it has to be a Supreme Court bench of either 3 to 5 judges, ideally 5 judges, or a High Court bench, a division bench comprising of the Chief Justice or a special bench constituted by him that can decide the constitutional debate. Right now, the judgments that we have are only guiding in nature. They are not precedents. They are not binding in nature. That's a very, very important distinguishing factor that one needs to look at. That debate right now, which is happening in the TV studios, in the streets, in the public domain, that whether hijab is an essential practice or not, constitutionally is not settled. We all might have opinions about it, but the court, the law of the land, does have to settle this debate. One more point I want to point out, what Ashutosh said, that what is the interim relief that the petitioners have asked for? The interim relief that the petitioners have asked for is that there are just 3 months left of this academic session. Allow the girls who want to wear the hijab get access to education and to the premises. In the new academic year, as and when the rules are notified, if there is a problem, we will come out and challenge them in a fresh appeal. But for now, allow them to go to the school. That's their prayer, and that is what we have to wait and watch, that if that interim relief is given to the petitioners or not.
Yeah. I think that is an argument that is being made by the petitioners' lawyers repeatedly, that there are only 2 months left, Ashutosh, 2 to 3 months left, exams are near us, and therefore whatever is the decision on the larger bench or not, in the interim, let the children get back to school and things calm down. We have to wait and see what the AG says on this, but all sides are also saying that you please decide this matter.
Yes, that will depend on the court. However, the court has also to see that if any such interim order is passed, what will happen to the law and order, whether it will be further affected, because it has been politicized in such a way that a lot of political parties are entering and a lot of things are happening. So many people are coming out, making protests. So that should not get violent. That should also be considered, I think, by the High Court while deciding the interim relief. However, it will be interesting to see as to what kind of decision is being taken, or maybe the court may require some more time even for the interim relief to be granted or not to be granted, and the court may reserve even the interim order for some time after applying the mind as to what would be good in the interest of the people at large and also for the students. What kind of relief can be given, whether the same relief what has been claimed can be given, and maintaining the law and order. Obviously, then the administrative agencies of the state will have to take care that in any kind of orders, the law and order has to be maintained, and that should be the responsibility of the state to maintain the same, so that all the students are safe and the people at large are also safe till the matter is decided to its finality, maybe by the constitutional bench if it is constituted in future. That will have to see what kind of order is going to be passed.
The AG has said one more time that we are concerned about early hearing of the matter. He has referred to triple talaq case and says not much on personal law and constitutional courts. We will break this down with my colleague Harish also. I do thank Ashutosh you for joining us, but let's